Stuart Armstrong is from the University of Oxford Future Humanity Institute. The Future Humanity Institute is an institute which I think is possibly the most important in the world now, because its work on AI safety and the future of AI is absolutely fundamental. It's been recognized by Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and most of the community, and it's one of the players with the top US research organizations in this area, also working with DeepMind, and Stuart himself is working on papers written on DeepMind, solving some of the many crucial issues of AI. So we're really honored to have Stuart here to tell us more how we can understand and control AI. Thank you.
For that. I want to point out we also do sort of engineered biotech risk at the air as well. We've dropped things like nuclear war and asteroid impact because it turns out they're just not risky enough for our liking. Anyway, so basics and risks of AI is going to be the original talk, but let's add in the rewards as well, because they are potentially huge. This is one of the only risks that has a huge upside if it goes right. The main advantage of not having a nuclear war is that you don't have a nuclear war. The main advantage of having a not dangerous AI is that you have a powerful, aligned AI. So AI is fantastic if done right. Now, as I mentioned before, what do I mean by AI? The term is hopelessly ambiguous. I'm going to focus on the old-fashioned idea, software with the same skills or superior skills to a human. What some people call AGI nowadays. And the reason I'm focusing on this, and potentially the sort of superintelligence or so-called superintelligent version of this, the reason I focus on this is because if this can be controlled, then the lower intelligence, lower powered AIs can probably be controlled as well. So if the problem can be solved here, the problem can be hopefully solved in general. Now, not only is AI ambiguous, but predictions about AI are terrible. This were the smartest people in the world with computers at the time. They knew in practice how to make computers do stuff, and this is probably one of the worst predictions ever. 1956, we would have AI over the summer. Dreyfus, 9 years later, in it is a really excellent piece of work that would have got more attention if we hadn't compared computer scientists to alchemists. But anyway, in an otherwise excellent thing, he was kind of predicting we're getting to the limit of what can be done. These predictions are both very wrong. Here are some other predictions, most of which are already wrong. This is the date at which we would have some AI as given by different people. This is Turing's original prediction, and here you can make out the AI winter where everyone is pretending they weren't working on AI anymore. But they're all over the place, there's no pattern, and even in theory, there's no reason to suspect that people are going to converge on good dates. So, here's the problem with formal and informal arguments. There are a lot of formal arguments you can make in this field, and they're almost all useless. AIs will probably not be able to solve NP-hard problems. You can show that as much as you could show anything. It's a strong result, but it's completely useless. Because what we need is how good the AIs are approximating these solutions, and there's there's not many strong results on that. And more importantly, how better they are at approximating it than human beings. The fact that AIs cannot solve complete problems at high speed does not reassure us that the AIs will not be able to outsmart actual human beings in the actual world where we have hosts of vulnerabilities. Here's the first hint that AI, so because of this I'm going to offer only informal arguments for why AIs might be powerful. I know that informal arguments are very weak, but they're probably the best things we have in this area, unfortunately. So one thing is the copyable human capital. Most of the added value of a corporation, apart from its capital, is the people on it and its structure. If you had an AI, you can produce a corporation by copying the AI as many times as you want, maybe giving them some individual skill training, and create a new corporation. It's also, because it's a copy of the same thing, most of the designs would result in sort of perfectly unified goals, and so you wouldn't need most of the management structure to coordinate these, because all the goals of the different copies would be aligned. So Currently there's very roughly about 5 billion computers, and how many AIs could we run on those? Well, I don't know, but it's probably quite a lot. And if we used AIs to produce more computers, how many AIs could we run on those? So basically, this is just a copy argument. With one AI, we have the potential of doing more intellectual exercise than the entire human population could do in 1,000 years. Numbers of that order, just through copying and a bit of specialization of the copies. And the sort of things that we can do with this, well, this is D-Day, one of the largest logistic operations in history. So a huge amount of planning, huge amount of building, organizing, and sort of wartime propaganda, and keeping the countries together and the armies together. Most of this was cognitive work. There were some soldiers at the front line walking forward, but most of all this was just thinking work. And even sort of moving is basically robotics. But even if you exclude that, most of D-Day was planning, thinking, organizing, the industries, as I said, the propaganda, keeping people coordinated. So D-Day is mainly a cognitive task. And this is the sort of thing you might be able to do with one smart AI copied enough times. Apollo project is another extreme example. And I love this because here you have metal and fuel underground. And suddenly you have this on the moon with a man. And that happened purely because decision makers, engineers, and some business people decided to make it happen and arranged things to make it happen. So general relativity, here we're moving away from just the copying idea to what if the AI is actually the genius. Well, coming up with a new theory of physics, basically from ex nihilo, just sort of thinking it through, is the kind of thing you might see from the AI. Civil rights movement, again, the amount of organizing and motivating and planning here is tremendous. Harry Potter. Again, we're going back to the lone genius idea. There's no reasons to expect that AIs will not be able to write more popular books than any human can, if it can sort of tap into the right knowledge. And finally, fashionable here, investment strategies. People who work here know how much cognitive work goes into that. What if you had 10,000 years to think over every one of your decisions, which might happen if you had AIs run at high speed or copied a lot? So these are at least hints that AIs could become very powerful. I'm not saying that they necessarily will, but there's hints that they might. And this is my sort of favorite appropriate example for the time. The Roman Empire, most glorious empire of the world. Let's not talk about China. But the most glorious empire the world has ever seen. Augustus ruling this expansion, nothing can stand against it. Let's take a small part of it and pit it against the Roman Empire. We're going to do Switzerland versus the rest of the Roman Empire. But we do one small time slip. We do modern day Switzerland versus the old Roman Empire. I think it's pretty clear here that modern day Switzerland would completely overwhelm the glorious Roman legions. Not just because we have better weapons, but we have better industry, we have better science, we have better political structure. Everything is basically pointing to the advantage of modern Switzerland. But the interesting thing here is these are people, these are people. There is nothing fundamentally different between modern Switzerland and the Roman Empire in terms of the basic units, the humans behind it. All that's different is a difference in technology, a difference in organization, a cognitive difference, essentially. So this is the kind of thing you can go from something to something much more powerful just by being smarter. Okay, now why is this necessarily a risk? Just if AI could be powerful doesn't mean it would be dangerous. Well, the main risk is that there's no natural containment. This is the sort of toy model for an agent interacting with the environment. It gets a reward function. What's not included here is the human who gets to design the reward function and who gets to reboot the AI if things go badly. But this model is wrong because, as the AI might discover, and what is accurate, is that the human is part of the environment. In fact, everything is part of the environment. So the pressure from the AI to maximize its reward now translates, if it's smart enough, to pressure to take control of the human. Just naturally. Okay.
Make it 3.
Anyway, the basic point is there is no safe way of doing this. This is why Stuart Russell says that we don't, no an engineer talked about bridges that don't fall down, we just call it building bridges. Right now we have to say AI that is provably beneficial, but that would just be called AI. So the problem is that AI is effective at unbounded, unfriendly goals. There are ways of attacking this sentence at every level. Attacking the goals, attacking the unfriendliness, the effectiveness, and the unboundedness. I've done work, this is an immodest slide, but I've done work on all the ones that are in red, so there are different approaches and there are different ones that have been working on. I'll skip over this, which is about value learning, but we don't have time. The thing is now, what can we get from this if we got a fully aligned AI? Well, as I hinted before, you can secure your code in your machines for reasons to do with don't run Turing-complete languages where you don't have to, and for a variety of other reasons. It is possible to secure your code in theory, and an AI could do it in practice. It could also secure its machine, especially from interference, not so much from copy. Ferret out the truth. Now, we might feel that we're sort of post-truth, but that's because humans are flawed. It's actually very hard to lie, especially about important things, because once you lie about one thing, you have to start lying about everything. And the truth is a lot easier to ferret out than lies in most situations. And a machine without our cognitive flaws would be able to do this. Stop social engineering attacks. If you have an AI around this, they could stop the social engineering attacks, especially because the AI allows flexibility. Why do most social engineering attacks work? It's because, oh, my sister flushed my phone away when the dog ate it, and I'm about to do an operation to remove the nuclear bomb from my shoulder, and can you please give me this, it would save us? That kind of thing. That's I'm stereotyping, obviously, but those kind of work because these situations come up and there is no way of getting around them. And the smarter the AI is, the more flexibility you have to actually figure out, is this true and I accept it, rather than a yes, no, rather than a you don't do this and then the humans let it through because of the sob story. We can do differential privacy and only legitimate information sharing. These things work fine in theory, they don't work in practice because basically there's the trust thing. But if the AI can figure out, is this a legitimate law enforcement thing, asking a legitimate question, and I can give it the information in a differentially privacy way, they can check this and then do it. And finally, there's sort of, AIs are capable of doing binding deals in ways that humans are not, if in no other way by merging their utility function. And I will just end on this slide. These are the variety of things that might be solved by a sufficiently powerful AI. Some of them are controversial, and I put them up there for the discussion. But but there are a lot of things that, as I say, with a sufficiently powerful AI might get solved. And notice I didn't put relative poverty, but absolute poverty is definitely something that could be solved. Because it's vastly oversimplified, but absolute poverty is some people don't have enough stuff. And building stuff and moving it to people is the kind of thing that AIs would be good at. This is the picture for sort of extremely powerful AIs. As you go lower down, you sort of get closer to now. So the extremely powerful AIs, by the way, someone mentioned AIs enslaving humans, not going to happen. Definitely not going to happen. If we get to the potential where AIs can enslave humans, humans are pretty much going to get squeezed out at that point. We're not the best slaves the AIs could use. So, but in any case, yeah. So, sorry for rushing through that. I seem to have missed the timing a bit. But to summarize, the AIs could become extremely powerful. They might be dangerous because they treat the humans as environment, and this is a correct thing for them to do. There are partial solutions that are being researched on this. If we get the AI to work, we can solve a huge host of problems.
Okay, so thanks a lot for Stuart.